Howdy folks, and welcome back to our channel. When you picture the Wild West, what comes to mind? Cowboys, shootouts, gold rushes? That's all classic stuff, but that's mostly the 19th century. Today, we're saddling up and riding way back in time to the early 18th century to see what the Wild West looked like long before the cowboys we know and love. Forget what you've seen in movies for a moment, because this era's story is all about one major player, Spain. Let's rewind the clock even further, to the 1500s, long before English settlers landed at Jamestown or Plymouth Rock. Spanish conquistadors were already trekking across the vast arid landscapes of what would become the American Southwest. These weren't just random adventurers. They were on a mission from the Spanish crown, driven by three things: God, gold, and glory. One of the earliest and most famous names is Hernan Cortes. While he's best known for conquering the Aztec Empire in modern-day Mexico in the 1520s, his success created a ripple effect. It fueled a frenzy of exploration northward, as others dreamed of finding their own empires of gold. This is where Francisco Vázquez de Coronado comes in. In 1540, hearing legends of the 7 golden cities of Sevilla, Coronado led a massive expedition. Imagine it. Hundreds of Spanish soldiers, thousands of native allies, and herds of livestock marching from Mexico into present-day Arizona, New Mexico, and as far north as Kansas. Did they find cities paved with gold? Nope, not a single one. What they found instead were the ancient Pueblo peoples, like the Zuni, and vast, seemingly endless plains roamed by immense herds of bison. Coronado's expedition was a financial failure, but its impact was enormous. It mapped huge, previously unknown territories for Spain, and, crucially, it introduced horses to the plains. This single act would eventually revolutionize the lives of Native American tribes like the Comanche and the Apache, turning them into the legendary horse-mounted warriors of the West. So, if there was no gold, why did Spain stay? The answer shifted from gold to God. After the initial wave of conquistadors, the focus turned to religious conversion. The Spanish Empire began establishing a network of missions, especially throughout New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, and later California. These missions weren't just churches. They were fortified compounds that served as centers for colonization. Franciscan friars arrived with the goal of converting Native Americans to Christianity. They taught them European farming techniques, ranching with cattle and sheep, and various crafts. These missions, like the famous ones in San Antonio or Santa Fe, became the anchors of Spanish settlement. They were surrounded by presidios or military forts to protect them, and pueblos or civilian towns grew up around them. This created a unique society, a blend of Spanish and indigenous cultures, but it wasn't always a peaceful mix. The Spanish demanded labor and tribute from the native peoples and tried to stamp out their traditional religions. This led to tension and sometimes violent resistance, like the Pueblo Revolt of 1680, where the Pueblo peoples successfully drove the Spanish out of New Mexico for over a decade. By the early 1700s, this was the reality of the Wild West. It wasn't about American cowboys. It was a contested frontier at the very edge of the vast Spanish Empire. It was a land of Spanish missionaries, soldiers, and settlers living alongside, and often in conflict with powerful native groups. The landscape was being transformed by European livestock, and new trade networks were forming, connecting native peoples and Spanish colonists. This Spanish foundation, the language, the religion, the architecture, the ranching traditions, and even the legal systems for water rights laid the groundwork for everything that would come later. The vaquero, the Spanish cowboy, was the direct ancestor of the American cowboy. So the next time you think of the Wild West, remember its deep Spanish roots. It's a story that started centuries before the first saloon shootout. Thanks for joining me on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next adventure. See you in the next video.